My guest today is a leadership coach with over 4 decades inside complex organizations. He's spent his career watching how people actually step into leadership. Now, that's long before they're given the title. He's worked in aerospace, he's worked all the way to retail, and he's seen what gets noticed and what gets ignored. And interestingly, he's a jazz saxophonist in his spare time, and he now helps professionals lead from the middle. David Graddy, thank you very much indeed for joining me.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate you having me on the podcast.
Well, welcome to the show. I mean, this is the podcast where real conditions, we investigate real conditions that where leadership and sales actually work and where they all break down. And I talk to people like you, CEOs, founders, and operators who've had to make decisions where they put a lot of effort in, there was lots of high pressure, but all the playbooks that they came in with didn't typically fit. And the idea is we're not going to swap slogans, we're not going to swap frameworks here, but we're looking to surface patterns. What are the things that create momentum and what gets in the way? What experienced leaders eventually stop doing as well. So, thank you. And my question to you from your book is, after your 40 years inside some seriously large organizations, including Boeing, when did you first realize that leadership is not something that's tied to your job title? What was the hardest thing that got tested when you noticed that?
That is a great question. And my answer goes back to early in my career, working in retail. I worked for a gentleman who made growth of the people that he led the most important thing. And whether you had a title of stockman, working in retail, it's cleaning the floors, while sweeping the floors, or you were a member of the management staff, you had to consistently drive results, but bring your people along. And for me, leadership stepped away from being just, hey, go do this, hey, go do that, do this task. And it became a matter of growing your people and being grown as a person who is not a member of the management staff. I think that's where I really landed on my philosophy of leadership from a you need to start now. I use the old saying, begin leading where you are, not where your title says you are. That's become my mantra right at the moment and throughout my whole career, because you can do leadership actions and activities, communicate better, show integrity, problem solve, train others to do things, and work together and serve people as a leader, even though you don't have that title.
Yeah.
And that's what I think we miss a lot of. There are many leaders who look at their employees, the people they lead, as a means to get something accomplished. And they lose out on bringing them along as leaders and identifying them as leaders. It only gets to a certain point. And that was the thing that I realized from Tim, that he liked to grow his people. He was the best at it. And coming out of that is when I really grasped it was more to me than just do a job. It was growth. It was bringing your people along. It was getting them involved. It was building a team. There was a lot of things involved in leadership that were more than just telling people what to do.
Mm-hmm. I think I remember being vaguely on the edge of possibly maybe becoming a manager once, and I was thinking, oh, that's such a good job title to have, being a manager. And I was in a race with a friend, which one of us, different company, would get the manager title first. I don't remember who won. And as you said, it didn't matter a damn because when I got there, wasn't any good at it at all. In fact, I was appalling, absolutely appalling. I still look back in the trail of destruction that I've left behind me. You know, all these damaged people that I just messed around with, which was exactly as you said. Here, do that. No idea about, you know, how you bring people along, how you bring people up. Now, your core idea, this leading before you get the job title there, is I think very real. But in practice, when you see people trying to lead before they get their title, what do people consistently get wrong when they try this? What's the mistake that people always make?
Wow, another good question. The
I do my best.
the 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 I think they try to overstep. They see a leader that does one, two, three, and they want to do that, but they may not have the knowledge, they may not have the training, they may not have the position in the group. A lot of people I've seen over my career, every group has that informal leader that kind of takes control of all the meetings, even though they don't have that title of manager. They will step up and give advice, whether it's asked for or not. But they're the informal leader. Every group has one. And a lot of people I've seen that have been in that, they've tried to overstep themselves and go past what their place can be. You have to learn to lead within the structure and I hate to say it this way, the box that you reside in as an organization. And having someone, unless you're given that, you're empowered to do those things and do those extra things. That's probably the thing I have seen the most of for someone who's trying to be a leader but doesn't have the title yet.
Hmm.
Learning those boundaries. You can't overstep your boss.
Yeah.
You may be able to make a decision to a point, but you better know where that point is, because if you take that next step and that was outside the bounds and it boomerangs on you and comes back, your boss comes back and says, you weren't supposed to go that far. You can get yourself in trouble. So the people that I see trying to lead that don't have the title have a tendency to overstep. And it's just learning that boundary that they can't go past, because the idea is not have anything come back to your boss that's going to trip you or the organization or the boss up in some way because you made a bad decision or you made an incorrect move. You should learn that level that you can go to. And as you build up to that, it's kind of like parenting. My dad always said, I'll give you as much rope as you can, as I think you can take. And once you get to the end of that rope, if you don't go past it, I'll give you a little more. I'll give you a little more. I'll give you a little more. So you build that trust. If you do the same thing in the situation of trying to learn to lead, know your boundary, because if you do good within that boundary, you get a little more, and then you get a little more, and that's where you become more empowered to do just the job that you were supposed to do, but they start stepping you out and giving you opportunities to do other things, because that's how you build your trust with your boss and with the team that you're part of.
That is, I mean, it's a very, very interesting point. The and it's a I suppose it's difficult to try and formalize that. It's not as if you get a manual that says these are the 10 decisions you can make in the you can and this far and no further in any role really. But it's almost like a learned sense. You tune into radio permission set, and you know that this is the frequency, this is as far as you can work. I'm not sure that I have that authority, sort of thing. I mean, I'm working as the chief executive of a small company right now, and I know I can pretty much do anything, and yet I need to take some stuff to the board. And yet, I have a boss. Everybody's got a boss. There's still an area of permission and I don't know. What's this? It's called RACI, isn't it? Responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. You want people. There's the different elements of where you can work and what people need to be pulled into. Anyway, it's an interesting concept, though.
Knowing how far to go
Yeah.
and knowing what to learn. To me, there's basics in that you can learn before you get there. One, integrity.
Mm.
That should be throughout the organization, no matter what your position is. You need to learn to communicate. Communication is the most important thing you'll be doing because you're communicating with your bosses, with your team, with your clients, customers. So communication, learn problem solving skills
Hmm.
before you get there. Learn how to prioritize and schedule things and do projects and lay out projects and lead them. There's things you can do before you get that position. It's just what are those things within the confines of the company or the organization that you're working with, and then grow to that. And there's all sorts of ways you can grow. Some bosses won't let you grow or will limit you as what you do because that's their method of control. To hey, I want you to do this, but you can. There's books, there's conferences, there's you can get mentors. There's all sorts of ways you can grow. But there are things when you can't do. This is what stepping outside the box, and I gotta go look at decision making that way. The job will have decisions in it that you'll make as you go along, but your decision making will cap out at stuff you don't have responsibility for.
Mm.
That's what one thing you cannot step over unless the boss gives you that availability to do that or that empowerment to do that. So a lot of people don't think along those lines. They'll just do, or they won't do because they don't know and they won't ask.
That's the other side. I mean, you're talking here, it's like the third rail of decision making. You know, don't step in that because you're not allowed to. But somebody's going to go and turn the power off and let you do this. The other thing is because it's electrified, because this decision that you want to make is it could potentially go wrong, you don't go anywhere near it. So you almost restrict the you restrict their creativity, you restrict their authority, so that stuff doesn't get done. You hold them back. I wonder if that's a risk.
It is from a person that's not the leader's perspective on that. You can always, if you work yourself into a position where the leader really trusts you, you can impact the decisions you don't make by being the one to provide him information. Here's your options. Here's the good and the bad of that situation or that decision, with so that you and hopefully have a boss that says, so which one do you think you would like to do? Which one do you think we should do? And you can give your opinion if it's asked. But back to knowing that ceiling, knowing what you can do and where you can go. So it's kind of it's an interesting dance that you
Yeah.
do in that situation because some people overstep
Mhm.
and they get clipped. Some people overstep and they get their boss clipped. And
Yeah.
that's the one thing you don't want to do is put your boss in a bad situation. That's the worst possible thing you can do.
Career limiting move, I think it's called, isn't it?
That's what I call it.
Now, if you are then somebody, and I talk to a lot of people who run commercial functions, so that's sales, revenue, growth, that sort of thing. How should people in those sorts of roles identify and then develop these pre-title leaders? Okay, these early stage people, and but do it in a way that's actually going to move performance rather than just culture. Because these commercial things are all measured. It's all tightly monitored. It's a performance function.
Well, first you start with my opinion, you start with attitude. Who's got the right attitude? Who's positive? Who's always there? Who's where they're supposed to be, doing the job? Who produces the results? That's kind of baseline for me. Is you don't want someone that's not going to produce the result, deliver the report, make the sales quota. They won't usually be the ones to step up and be who you will pick
Mhm.
when you're looking at a potential leader. So you start with that. And from there, it's delegating and giving opportunities. If John over here is going to work through, you have a project going on, John, I got an opportunity here. I need you to be a part of this team. If you're not just getting this done over here, you're also utilizing John to see what he can do. Can he work within that smaller team? It's a short-term thing, three months. They have a specific thing to produce, and you can see if they can handle that. If John can do that, well, can John go over here and actually lead this activity for a little while? So you start giving opportunities because you may think, well, John's really good, but you see him in action. Okay, boy, he really needs to work on his communication skills. He draws everything to him because he leads like he works, and that is, I do everything. So you see what they do, and you can start tweaking, or it may be something we say can't do that. So you pull them back and you plug somebody else into one of these, and you start testing and looking at who you have on your team. Too many leaders that I have worked for, you're as a member of the team, you're there to deliver a product. That's it.
Yeah.
And they don't, and they can miss out on some really good people, and a lot of good people leave organizations because they don't get those opportunities.
Well, I think it's that the people don't leave companies, but they leave their manager, they leave their leader. Not always, but they leave because of the relationship that they have or that they don't have with that manager. And I think that relationship has to cover things like, I want to get better. I want to grow. If I'm not growing, I'm static, and things aren't static. Things that live are not static. They don't just continue, they decline. Nothing continues flat. It declines or it grows.
Well, there are you'll always have people in your organization that are the eagles.
Yeah.
They're the people that the 20% that really drive everything and do and they get a lot of stuff done. They drive a lot of what happens. And you have what I call the ducks. They're there, they're steady, they're going across the water, they keep things going, they produce the results, and a lot of them will not want to be leaders.
Yeah.
They're good being ducks.
Yep.
So you try to make them the best ducks they can by making
Mhm.
sure they have what they need training wise, what they have informationally to do the job right, and the encouragement and the recognition to do those things. Because not everybody wants to be a leader. Some people just don't want to mess with it. That's
Yeah.
just kind of the world.
You can't blame them. Huh.
Sometimes I joked the other day that um, leadership is easy until you meet people,
That's it.
and
It's,
that's what makes it tough.
I think it's like any organization or anybody who does anything. It's the most efficient hospital in the world is the one with no doctors, nurses, or patients. The fastest, bestest running schools in the world, no teachers or kids.
Yep.
That's how you want it to work. If you look at your book, Leading in the Trenches, what part of your framework actually changes how someone is perceived by their boss, by their senior leadership, and not just how they see themselves?
That's tough to consider because the book has three specific areas that I think you need to have when you want to grow in leadership position. One is a foundation. You have to have values, how you handle things, what your foundation of knowledge is going into that leadership. You also have to know the actions that you're going to take. And as that leader, and then you also need to have a continual growth plan. because leadership is not a destination. It's a journey, not a destination. You're always on it. And if you don't have one of any of those, if you have two, but you don't have a third, you're going to fall short. And instead of being on that path with all three, you're going to veer off. If you have the foundation and the action, but you don't have the growth plan, you're not going to know how to get there. If you have the action and the growth plan but no foundation, you won't have a starting point.
Yeah.
And so it's not just one thing. It's a cluster of things. And if you're missing pieces, you can be the best communicator, the best decision maker, but if you're not showing good integrity on a consistent basis, you bust your trust with your team, and eventually
Nice.
everything will sour.
Yeah.
If you're working in a sales or like a help desk type situation where you're the person solving the problems for people, and if you don't have communication skills, that is not a good place for a person that doesn't have people skills to be. Or that's me, because I've been in that situation. You have to be able to deal with people, especially people that are upset. And
Yeah.
if you work in retail, you'll always have people upset at you. I know, because it's happened to me. So to me, any one thing can impact everything, and it can impact the whole thing. And if you take it a step past just leadership, I go back to a story John Maxwell told at a conference I was at, where he was talking about he was having dinner with three executives, and one of the executives asked him, "Why don't you write a book on business ethics? We could really use that." This is when Enron was going on and all the stuff was happening about bad companies and everybody hated CEOs. And now the other two guys joined in, and John told him, "I can't write a book on business ethics because there's no such thing." They were, "What do you mean there's no such thing?
Mhm.
There's only ethics.
Ethics.
You can't have good ethics in business and bad personal ethics. You can't. One will bleed over to the other, whether that's in your spiritual life, your physical, your health. If you cheat anywhere, it will impact another part eventually, and that is so true.
Yeah.
You have to be. It's just ethics is and integrity is just it's a whole whole concept.
I used to, for shorthand, would always try and hire on courage, on curiosity, and integrity. So it's, yeah, the integrity part is, as you put it, the foundation piece. Is, can I trust this person? What would you say is the cost of backing the wrong horse? Either misidentifying somebody with potential or just overlooking the right people?
Well, first when you miss an opportunity to grow somebody that could be a potential leader or have an impact in the organization, you potentially stunt where the organization, the company, or the group can go. There'll always be someone coming up, so there's usually someone out there that will come in and everything. But if you miss somebody, you have a potential to impact the organization.
Mm.
Secondly, you impact the person.
Yeah.
And there are so many people out there, and this is the funny thing, that don't realize they have the potential to be a leader
Mm.
and do the things that are out there that they could have a major impact on. My executive I know told me a story of his job was to find leaders. This is in retail. Excuse me. And he oversaw a group of stores in a retail chain, and he had one that had an opening in it for a store manager. And he knew there was this. This is a pretty good sized store, and he had this manager, at a store that he thought she would be really good in this position. But she was at a much smaller store. She's very comfortable, very successful, ran a real profitable store. And my excuse me, I'm sorry. And he went to her and said, "Hey, I have this opportunity for you. I want you to consider taking it. I think you'd be great for it." Boy, I don't know. I'm really doing good here and I want to really see some things through. And she showed a real hesitancy. And Mike said, "I understand that. Making that step is tough. But I tell you what, I know you can do it. I think you have that potential to do it. And don't worry about what you don't know. I'll help you there. I'll get you what you need if you make the jump." And she did. She took that step and now is blossomed. And so it's what you miss as seeing that person grow, much less the organization. That's important too, and what it can do for the organization, but watch that person grow, because she's making so much more impact in that bigger store over all those people. And the impact, so it has a, not picking somebody has a multitude of impacts that can range. It's like a ripple, drop of pee in a body of water, and watch it just ripple. A good leader ripples, and it can keep going.
I like that. I like that. The continual impact. If I were to give you, just as we come in for a land here, if I were to give you 1,000 billboards and the world's largest Sharpie, what message would you write on them all for everyone to see?
I would probably go back to the statement I made at the front end of the podcast. Begin leading where you are, not where your title says you are. I think that is absolutely important, because more people could lead and be leaders before they ever have a title or a position, just by their actions, by their integrity, by the things they could accomplish and help their team accomplish and their organization accomplish. I think that's the thing we miss the most. And I think if we worked at it as leaders, bringing people along so that everybody could reach that potential, it would be amazing what we could do.
I like that. I like that. Where can we find you when we need you? We're going to put a link to the Leading in the Trenches book into the description here, so people can find David Graddy, author of. Where can we find you?
Very simply, my website is lead@davidgraddy.com. Very simple. If they want to email me, there's contact through that, or directly at lead@davidgraddy.com. And I'm also on LinkedIn.
Good. What's exciting for you right now?
Starting to write the second book. That next thing is really, really interesting to take it from where it was. Is when if you read the book, the last chapter is, what's your next move? Mm-hmm. Do you stay doing leadership within the team, or do you take that step and become a leader and of a team? And so that takes that next step, being a leader of a team. And it's kind of exciting to sit down and start thinking through that process, running through the outline. I'm a couple of chapters in as far as the writing goes. So that'll be coming out probably in the fall.
Excellent. Well, we will look out for that. It just remains for me to say, David Graddy, thank you very much indeed for joining me.
Thank you for having me. This was great.